this is related to well-posed learning problem. I already told you what is called as well-posed learning problem in the definition of machine learning. So you will say that a problem is a well-posed learning problem under a particular condition. If you write a computer program, that program is going to learn everything from the experience in a particular task. Like if you design your system for one application, with respect to that application only, it will do everything. And when it is doing its work, you are going to check the performance of that particular system, because whatever we do, we have to find the accuracy of the system. Then only we can put that in the market. For example, if I develop an application for healthcare, I have to make sure that it is predicting everything 100% accurate. If not 100%, minimum 99% accuracy should be there. If you have only 50% accuracy, and if you are saying that a person is having cancer, if he is not having cancer, it is of no use. So we have to measure the performance. And here we are going to measure the performance P. And when you measure, the performance of the system should increase with experience. This definition we have already seen. So when we see this well-posed learning problem, we have three different things to consider. The first thing is the task, and second one is the performance measure, and the third one is called as experience. Now let us see some examples for this well-posed engineering problem. So here we want to classify the emails into spam and the spam and not spam. So in this, our task is classifying the emails as spam or not. And here we are going to measure the performance by means of how much fraction of emails are accurately classified as spam or not spam. And our experience, how the system is going to learn it. Because when you use your email system, you are not going to train it. System has to automatically train by itself. So how it is going to get the experience? So whenever you get a mail, you will see the content. And if you feel that it is not a normal mail, you will mark it as spam. You will say that move it to the spam folder. So in that case, when you mark something, system is learning, okay, this mail is a spam because the user is moving it to spam folder. Or otherwise, sometimes some of the mails now you may receive in the spam folder, and your friend might have told, I have forwarded a message to you, did you check it? You will say him that no. Then they will tell you, check the spam also. Even so, if you check the spam folder and if you find that the mail relevant to you is existing in the spam, you will mark it as not spam. You will tell it move to the normal folder. So the system is learning by your behavior. When you mark it as spam or not, from that the system is learning it. So experience plays a major role in this. Similarly, we will see for some other application also. Like you take the example of a robot which is driving a car. Nowadays we have autonomous vehicles, but here we are considering only robot driving a car. So in this, our task is a robot should drive on a car on a public highway using whatever sensor it is having. Definitely there will be some sensors. With that only the robot will be able to sense the atmosphere, because everything should be according to the environment. Then we need to measure the performance. Here in this application, the performance measure is what is the average distance traveled by the robot before an error. Here, error in the sense some other problem encountered, like there may be accident or otherwise some other problems will be there. So before the problem, how much is the average distance traveled? That is called as the performance measure. And then we have the experience. So here experience is nothing but how your robot is learning. So here it is learning by means of the images, sequence of images you are feeding to the robot. You have to tell that if you have an image like this, then this is the case, you have to give this particular command. Like if you feel that somebody is coming in front, in between, you have to suddenly apply the brake. So sequence of images is going to tell that some person is appearing before the car, he's crossing the road or something. So immediately robot has to press the brake. So the command you have to give. So the experience here is sequence of images and the commands noted down while observing a human driver. So immediately you can't train without a human driver. First, there will be a human driver. We will observe the system with the human driver. For every sequence of images, what actions the driver is doing, that we will track, and we will create a database. With that database only, we are going to train the robot. So that is from there only, it is going to learn the system. And if you consider the example of handwriting recognition problem, So in this, there is a popular data set called as MNIST data set. This is taken from that data set. The use of the data set is, it is designed for recognizing the digits from 0 to 9. Every person will have different way of writing a particular digit. So you have to train a system. When I give a paper of scanned document, like you will, for example, you are writing your test. So you are scanning your document and then you are sending to us. So I have to now take that is a handwritten document. I have to convert that into digital document. For example, if you have written, this is a tough question, I have to convert that into text document. It should be converted as a Word document. Instead of images, I have to identify each and every letter you have typed, that should be converted, and I have to create a corresponding Word document which can be editable. Okay, so that is called as handwriting recognition system. So in that, our task is we need to recognize and classify the handwritten words within the image. So your input is the image. From the image, you may not be able to identify what is the text. You have to now train your system so that it can identify the text of different persons' handwriting. So here it is very difficult to task, because if you consider here for one letter 0, many persons are writing in a different way. The system should be able to detect all zeros as zeros only. So that is a very difficult task. And the performance measure here is how much percentage of the words are correctly classified. Here I'm not talking about the word, it is only digits. Sometimes if you consider your CAE uploading, there we are dealing with words. So we have to check how much percentage of words are correctly classified. So if I design a system like that, whatever text document you are uploading as a scanned image, I can convert that image into a PDF document or otherwise Word document. It is a very good system. Everybody can, whatever document is existing, it can be easily digitized with the help of this particular system. And here the training experiences, we need a database of handwritten words with given classification. So here classification is nothing but for the first one, the classification is 0. For the second row, the classification is 1 and so on. So the database should be very large. Then only you can train the system for maximum users handwriting. Always take a large data set so that you will get more accuracy. The checkers learning problem, it is like chess only. Many of you might have played this game, checkers. We are going to consider that only. So here the task is playing checkers, and the performance measure is when one person will be playing against another person, how much percentage of games you have won against the opponent. That is your performance measure. If I played totally 10 games and if I won for 7, the percentage here is 70% of the games I won. And the training experience here is how they generally train the machine. There are different ways of training the system. Many of you might have played the online game. In online game, you can pair your game with your friend. For example, chess, you can play online. You can play against your friend through online. Or otherwise, you can play with the system. One of the player will be you and the other player will be the system. That is nothing but the program. You are playing against the program. Okay, so generally here in checkers learning problem, initially they will train by designing a game where the machine will play against itself. And from that, based upon the result, whether it has won or it has not won, whatever may be, it will record all the moves it has done. And from that, it will be learning the things. So that is the training experience in this checkers game. And first, let us understand how the checker game will be, so that those who are not aware of the game, because we need to consider here afterwards everything with respect to this game only for this particular topic. We will see this video now. Let us continue and see the rules now. So the rules of the checker game are: the opponent with the dark pieces move first. If you have black and white, whoever is having with the black color, they will start the game first. And all the pieces will move only in diagonal space. You don't have any straight movement. So all are only in the diagonal space. And in the forward direction only, you are going to move. No backward direction movement is allowed in the beginning of the game. And the pieces must stay only in the dark squares. You cannot place any piece in the white square. And this is how you organize your board. And to capture the opposing piece, you can jump over it by moving 2 diagonal spaces in the direction of the opposing piece. We have already seen it. And a piece can jump forward over an opponent's pieces in multiple parts also. In one jump, you will take one piece and again you can move if the space is also there, and you can take both the pieces together. And in this, when you want to jump, that particular space should be free. If it is not free, you cannot jump. And also we have seen how you can crown a piece. If your piece reaches the opposite end, the last row, then you can crown that piece by placing one more piece of your own color over it. And when you crown a piece, that becomes the king piece, and this king can move in the diagonal only. Again, it cannot move straight, but the only advantage for the king is it can move in the forward direction diagonal, as well as in the backward direction also it can move diagonally. And there is no limit that you can have only one king. How many kings you are able to achieve, as many kings you can get in your game. So this is how we are going to play the checker. Now our system, what we are going to do here is we are going to study how we are going to design the problem, that is the well-known problem, with the help of this particular game. We will see all the steps involved in the development of our particular game, so that how a machine is going to play the game, how we are going to write the rules, and what are the things we have to do when we develop the program. Everything we are going to see with respect to this machine learning concept. So now this is called as designing a learning system. Because our system is a learning system, we are considering the example as checker game, how to design your learning system. So in this, whatever problem statement is given to you, it's like we are going to design now for a game. So whatever game is given to you, you have to first understand the problem description. That is nothing but the rules. What are the rules you have in your system that you have to understand properly? And we have certain steps in this. The first step is you have to choose the training experience, because our success of the system depends only upon the training. If you don't train properly, it may not be a successful system. So you have to choose the training experience. Then you have to choose something called as target function. And we will see later how to create this function and everything. Then you have to choose the representation of the target function, how you're going to represent in your system. And then you have to choose the function approximation algorithm, because when we represent in the system, we have to do some approximations based upon the performance measure we want. You have to consider that. And finally, you go for the design. So these are all the 5 steps involved in the design process of a learning system. So the first step is choosing the training experience. So here we are going to choose the type of the training experience from which your system is going to learn, because training plays a major role. We should be very careful in this. So it has significant impact on the success or failure of the learner. If you don't train it properly, definitely it is a failure system. And in this, we have to consider totally 3 important attributes. The first attribute is called as feedback. So what is feedback? How your system is going to learn? It is going to learn only through the feedback. And how the feedback can be given. There are 2 ways for the feedback. Let us consider that now. So the training experience is going to provide the feedback regarding the choice made by the system. Whatever move, I have to give feedback to the system, because based upon that move only, the next move will be happening. So you give the feedback to the system, and this feedback can be either direct feedback or otherwise indirect feedback. If you consider direct feedback, then you can say as direct feedback. So it's nothing but it is going to consider individual checkerboard state and the correct move for that particular state. For example, you consider this particular diagram. Here I have a checkerboard state. This is called as checkerboard state. There may be so many states. When you play at a particular point of time, you just take a photo of your checkerboard. What is that photo? That is called as checkerboard state. So this is my current state now. So if this is my state, think that I am dealing with red color coins. So what may be my next move? There may be so many possible moves, but now I'm going to consider one move. One move is here. I have given the move as 16 to 19. That means this particular square is 16. From this 16, I can move either to 20 or otherwise to 19 only, because my red coin can move only in the forward direction, that to diagonally. There are only 2 possible moves, 20 and 19. But I cannot move to 20 because already one more coin is there. That space should be free. Then only you can move. So what is my step now? I can move from 16 to 19 only. So here, what we are doing is we are giving direct feedback. Why it is called as direct feedback is, for every board state, this is one board state. For every board state, you are going to give what is the correct move for that particular board. So if there may be sometimes more than one move, you will say all the moves one by one. So now I'm giving one of the move for this particular state as 16 to 19. This is called a direct feedback. And sometimes you may give indirect feedback also. So what is indirect feedback is, so I may start with some initial border. This is my initial border. And I will play the game. When I play the game, there may be so many sequence of steps one by one. For example, first I will move one coin, then opponent will move another, then I will move the next one, opponent will move the next one. Like that, we will play together. Finally, we will end the game. When the game is over, one of the persons will win. Suppose I want to predict the program, I have to make the program such a way that I want to maximize the winning chance for me. So what I will do, my aim is I want to maximize this winning percentage. So in indirect feedback, what we are going to do is, it consists of move sequences, not only one move. You will start with the initial board position until you win. Whatever moves you have done, all the screens you have to capture. So take the snapshot of all the screens one by one. Okay. So arrange them in the sequence in which you played the game. So it consists of move sequences, and then you give what is the final outcome also. For example, if you say that I followed these sequence of moves, finally I ended with winning. So that type of games you have to consider to maximize your winning probability. So in this, for every state board, that is every board state, we are giving what is the move possible. But here we are not considering for every board move. Instead, what we are doing is we are considering all the sequence of moves one by one. Then we say I win or I lose. That's the thing. This is called as indirect feedback. You cannot tell anything directly by seeing one board. You have to tell only with respect to the previous board only. So this is called as indirect. And so in this indirect feedback, we have a problem that is called as credit assignment. So let us see what is that. In case of indirect feedback, we are not giving the move for every board. We are considering everything with respect to the sequence only. So we need to determine the degree to which each move in the sequence deserves the credit. For example, currently I am playing one particular move. I have to check what is the effect of that move in my winning, or if I lose, what is the effect of that move. So it can either give you credit or otherwise it will give you blame. Okay, so if it is giving you credit, you have to check what is the degree of that particular movement for your winning. And if it is not giving you credit, you have to see what is the degree of that movement for your lose in the final outcome. Okay, so because everything is a sequence, if that move is, even if I take one move that is correct move, the next move is going to also contribute for my winning or losing. So in this credit assignment, it is very difficult problem because you can lose a game. Even current move may be optimal, but after the optimal move, whatever move you are doing, if that is not optimal, if that is a poor move, then it will make you to lose the game only. So this problem is very difficult to assess. So generally, we have direct feedback as well as indirect feedback. People say that getting direct feedback system will be very good in designing a proper system when compared to indirect feedback system. So the learning from direct training feedback is typically easier. So generally, people prefer the direct feedback system only. And the second metric we are going to see now, whatever we have seen, feedback is the first one. And the second one is degree to which the learner controls the sequence of training example. So what is the meaning of this? For example, I want to teach you something. Like I want to tell you how to write a C program for a particular task. So what I can do, you will be relying on the teacher in that particular case. You are a student, you are learning from the teacher. So the learner must rely on the teacher, and the teacher will select all the information board state. With respect to this particular application, we are going to select all the board state. And for every board state, I will teach you, if you want to win, you can move this particular, you can go for this particular movement. Like that, for every board state, I will say, if your board state is this, you do this movement. If your board state is this, you do the second movement, and so on. Likewise, the teacher will instruct the learner and he will teach what are the different board state possible, and for everything, what should be the best to move. Everything will be told by the teacher only. This is one approach. The second approach is the learner, like you are the learner, you are learning the game now. The learner will propose the board state. For example, sometimes when I teach, I will say that if you get a question like this in the exam, try to answer like this. So I will tell for every question, if this is a question, this should be the way you have to write the answer. Sometimes you may also ask, ma'am, if the question is like this, how we have to answer? So that is the second approach. So in the second approach, the learner might itself propose the board state. Like you are giving the question, you are asking me how I have to answer this particular question to get full marks. So here with respect to the checker game, the learner might itself propose the board state and it will ask what should be the movement for that from the teacher. So in the first two approaches, there is a supervisor or otherwise a teacher. From the supervisor, we are learning everything. So that is called as supervised learning. But in the last approach is without the teacher, everything will be done. It is unsupervised learning. The learner is going to learn everything by playing the game against itself without the teacher. So we are not at all going to involve the opponent. Sometimes you can play the game against yourself. When you don't have any opponent, sometimes this will happen. We will play every game, both the sides we will be playing. So party A will be you as well as the player B will also be you. So the learner is learning by playing against itself without the teacher. So in this case, the learner is going to control the board state and then all the training classification only the learner has to do. So these are the various approaches we are going to follow. But generally, people go for mix of supervised as well as unsupervised learning. So now let us see what is the third case. It is also very important. It is called as distribution of example. So you might have studied various distributions in the probability, normal distribution, then Bernoulli distribution, and so on. So in the distribution of example, whatever real world scenario you will take, it will fit into some distribution. So how well your example you have chosen represents the distribution of examples over the final system on which you are measuring the performance. For example, I am training my system to detect the cancer patient. Suppose the training example, whatever I am choosing, is following some normal distribution. And later, when I design the system, I will test with some other test example. That test example should also follow the same distribution as that of the training distribution. Then only we will get more accurate system. So the distribution of examples is very, very important here. The learning is most reliable when the training example follow the same distribution as that of the test example. We will see what is the difference between training, testing, and validation later. So what we have to understand here is whatever distribution we are choosing for the training example, that should be same as the distribution of the test example. Then only we will get a good system. Now we will focus on the second one, choosing target function. So whenever we work on any machine learning algorithm, the target function plays a major role. And this is going to determine what type of knowledge you are going to learn in the particular problem. For example, when I play the checkers, what I am going to learn is what move I can do next according to the particular board position. When you have one initial board position, the best move will be different. And if you have some intermediate board position, the move will be different. So you have to first determine what type of knowledge you are going to learn and how you are going to use that particular knowledge to improve the performance. So that is the main aim. And here in case of the checker playing program, we have to learn how to choose the best move from all the legal moves given the board state. This is a very important point. They will give you one board state. Consider that this is the board state given to me. There are so many legal moves will be available. For example, when I consider this black, there are 4 black coins which I can move. I can move only these 4 black coins. I cannot move these 4 because you know that we can move only diagonal as well as one position only we can move. So I can move this black coin in this way, or otherwise this black can be moved in these 2 ways. Similarly, this black can be moved in 2 ways and this black can be moved in 2 ways. So these are the only possible legal moves available. But you cannot move all the pieces at once. You can go for only one move. So that move, whatever you are doing, should be the best move. For example, if you are not doing the best move, that may result in losing of the game. So once the board is given to us, from all the legal moves possible, we have to select only the best move. And that should help us in winning the game. That is our aim. And so here what is known as all the legal moves are already known, but we don't know which is the best move. Our aim is to find the best move only. Now let us consider this particular example board so that you will understand. This board and this board are different. Both are checker game only. The board state is different. Maybe this is the moment when I start my game, and this is during the middle of the game. So if you consider this, in this, only the color of the coins are changed. Don't worry about the color. Either they will give you black and white, or otherwise black and red, or black and red and white. Any color combination can be given to you. Now, if you consider this board, if I consider the red coin, I can move this red in two ways. One is this space I can move, or otherwise I can move to this space. Okay, why I can move to this space is this is having the opponent coin, so you can jump over it and you can conquer the coin. So what I will do, I have two options. Either I can go in this way, or otherwise I can go in this way. Both are legal moves, but my aim is I have to select the best move. Which is the best move here? Only this one. Because if you move in this way, you are getting one coin from the opponent. That is going to increase the chance of your winning. So what we will do, we will move the red from this particular square to this square. We will take this coin in the hand because we are winning this coin. And once you come here, it is not that you have to stop there. If you are able to go and jump over the next coin, that also you can do. So what I will do, after coming here, I'll jump over this. I will get this coin also. And here, try to understand the difference. Star over the coin indicates that this is a king piece. We have seen when a coin will become a king piece, if you are able to reach the last row of the opponent, you will be able to make the coin as king. Okay, so the advantage of having a king is king can move in the forward direction as well as in the backward direction. So first I'll be starting with this coin. I'll go here, then I will go here. Now what is happening in this case is I am reaching the last row of the opponent side. When I reach the last row of the opponent side, I will become the king. That means this red will become the king once it reaches there. After that, what will happen? Since that piece is king, it can travel in both forward as well as in the backward direction. That means you can make this coin to come here again. That is possible. So jump over this. Now you will collect this coin also. Then jump over this, collect this coin also. So now when this is over, this red will get all the 4 white coins. And after that move is over, no more white coins will be available in the board. So red will win the game. Okay, so now what we are doing here is we have 2 possible legal positions. From that, we are choosing the second one. We are making 4 jumps and we are winning that. So that is the aim of choosing the target function. We have to choose a function which is going to maximize our chance of winning the game. So how to proceed with this? So for that, we are going to write the program only. Everything is done with the help of the program. When we say it will be easy for us, but how to make the computer to do this automatically? So for that, we have to write a function that is called as target function. So you can write the function in many ways. Here, 2 ways are given to us. The notation of the target function is choose move is the name of the function. For this function, you have to tell what is the input and what is the output. Input is nothing but you have to give one board state. As I told you in the last, this one PPT slide, this is one board state, this is another board state. Board state is nothing but you are playing the game. At that time, imagine that you are taking a snapshot of that particular board. That is called as board state. So you can give any board state as the input. B represents set of legal board states. It should be legal. Okay. And then M represents set of legal moves. You give input as one board state. The system has to tell you for this particular board state, you move the coin like this. Okay. So the output should be, it has to propose one move from the set of legal moves. So this function is going to accept as input any board from the set B, and it is going to produce an output which is going to tell you some move from M. Okay, and here one thing is very important. We have already seen that we have 2 types of learning. One is direct learning and the other is indirect learning. I have told you in the feedback part. Let me again show that what is direct and indirect feedback. In case of direct feedback, for every board position, you will say that move this coin to this particular position. For example, here, this is direct. We have seen that 16 to 19. The meaning is this is 16, square number 16, and this is square 19. I can tell that the piece which is available in the square 16 can be moved to 19. This is one way. Or otherwise, what you can do is you can give sequence of both states, and finally, you can give what was the result. From this result, you can go back and you can learn. That is called as indirect feedback. We have seen these two in the previous class. So now, when you go for this indirect training, the choose move function is difficult to learn because you are not seeing anything with respect to current board state. In choose move, you have to give all the sequence of board states. Finally, you will either win the game or lose the game according to the output of the game, the result of the game. Whether you are winning or losing, you have to make a move. So that is very difficult to learn given the indirect training. So what they say is, if we go for direct training, that is once a board position is given, you can say what is a move for that. That is possible. So that is choose move function. Now let us see. So here I have mentioned all the board state possible at a particular point of time. This is the board. When we start initially, the board will be like this. You know the rules. All the coins will be placed only at the black squares. All the white squares will be empty. And we have various moves possible. So this is the input, which is nothing but board state, and output is you have to suggest any one move out of the legal moves. So here they have listed all the 8 legal moves which are possible for the initial board state. So one legal move I will explain, remaining you can understand. I will explain this move. So after every move, they will say what will happen if both the players have played. Okay. So initially you see it is in the initial position. Now, if you consider the first board position, this coin, this white coin is moved here by the first player. Okay, so white coin is moved here. Similarly, the second player has moved the red coin from this position to this position. So both the players have played. We will see what will happen if both the players have played. So this is one possible move. And this is another possible move. If you consider this move, the white coin is moved from this position to this position, but the red is moved from this position to this. So this is also a possible move. Likewise, we will have so many possible moves, but the algorithm should select only one move that should be the best move. Okay, so that is the aim of the target function. So the first one is one of the target function, and you can also represent target function by another method that is called as alternative target function. So here we will write v, that is v is nothing but our function. It is going to map b to r. In the previous case, we have seen that b will be mapped to m. But here, this function b is going to map b to r. So what is this b is? It is a board state. Similar to the previous one, any legal board state can be treated as b. And what is r is? For every output, we are going to assign some real value. Real value is nothing but some score we are going to assign, some number we are going to assign. And that number can be not only integer, it can be real number also. And we are going to call this function as the evaluation function. Why it is called as evaluation function is, we are not going to tell this will be the best move, but we will say what score you will get when you go for this particular move. So we are going to assign a numerical score to the given board state. And this is one example they have given. Suppose if you consider that we have a current board state as B, if that board state is the final state. What is the meaning of final state? Your game is over. When your game is over, you can either win the game or you can lose the game, or otherwise there can be a draw tie. Okay. So if you won the game, then for this particular V of B, what is V of B is? B is a board state. For that particular board state, when you finally win the game, this function will return V of B as 100 because you are winning the game. Suppose for that particular board state, if you finally lose your game, then you will get minus 100. That is the maximum score. Since you are losing, you are getting minus. And if the match is drawn, so nobody is the winner and nobody is the loser. So we are going to get the neutral value. That is nothing but B of B is equal to 0. So if you get any of these three, you can easily predict. This will happen only at the end of the game. But when you are in the middle of the game, for example, imagine that I played totally 18 moves, but I am in the middle of the 5th move. Okay, totally I played 18, but I am in the middle of the 5th move. In that state, I cannot predict anything about the remaining moves I will make in the future. Okay, so if B is not the final state in the game, then how to calculate this B of B is by means of a recursive call. Hope you might have studied about recursive functions. When I say I want to compute 4 factorial by means of recursion, you will call 4 factorial as 4 multiplied by 3 factorial. Then you will call 3 factorial as 3 multiplied by 2 factorial, and so on. So finally, when you get the value as 0, 0 factorial will be 1, you will stop your recursion. Similarly, here, this is a recursive call because we are in the middle of the game. We have to reach till we reach the end of the game. So in the middle of the game, we can calculate B of B as B of B dash. So what is this B dash is? It is the best final board state that can be achieved from the current B. And you have to continue playing the game till you reach the end of the game. Okay, like the recursion, if I want any particular value, I have to go till I reach the end, like 0 factorial. Similarly, here, you are in the state, you have to reach from there till you reach the final state, you have to play your game. Okay, so B dash is the best final board state that can be achieved from your current state, and you have to play optimally the game. You should not simply leave the game, you have to play optimally. We are thinking that both the players are making their effort best. Then only we will be able to find the optimal solution. Okay, and out of these 4 cases, the first 3 cases are easy to find out, whereas the last case is very hard to compute because it involves a recursion. And also, we will not know what is the next move. So this function is very hard to compute. So when we want to find the value, we will go for some approximation function only because we don't know what will be the next move. We can only approximate the things. We cannot predict everything 100% exactly. So we need to go for some approximation. Now let us see how those things are done.